Hello, everyone. I'm Matt Reid, and as is always the way, I'm the restaurateur that follows the digital graphics guy with no video. But I actually didn't want to have lots of things to distract from the message that I wanted to share with you today. And the message that I wanted to share is the story of disruption. And disruption has become one of those sexy business buzzwords that we hear all the time. And I think whenever you say the words disruption, people jump to Airbnb and all of these things where industries have changed through the technology. But I think sometimes it's not so easy to latch onto that when you're just starting out, when you're just thinking about yourself. You're a tiny little startup. You're not about to create a global network, but you're at the early stages of your career. And what I want to inspire in you is that everybody is capable of disruption, and that disruption is available in multiple different ways. And I want to share with you a few stories that I've experienced where we have created disruption, one of them accidentally, and the second one by complete intention. And that was also part of my learning and journey. So we have a restaurant group called Maximal Concepts in Hong Kong, and our most well-known restaurant is a restaurant called Mott 32. Who in the room here has heard of Mott 32? That's pleasing to see. Now, I know you're thinking, why is a Farang white guy sitting here talking to me about a Chinese restaurant? And I'll be honest with you, I rarely do, because my partners have me hide, because apparently it doesn't look good, and no one would trust it if it was actually true that I was involved. But myself and my best friends, who we've been working together now, we're in our 20th year of working together, we were creating restaurants over and over, and they were always Western restaurants. And we were looking in Hong Kong, and we were like, why in the rest of the world are restaurants a lifestyle experience? They're design, they're the people, the music, the vibe, and yet in Hong Kong, it's really just about the food, but not the rest. And this is my example of accidental disruption, because we didn't say to ourselves, we didn't sit in a room and say, we want to disrupt Chinese cooking. We just said, we think that there should be more lifestyle. You should be able to have a cocktail and be in a designed environment. That was our original vision. And we knew how to do that because we'd done it in multiple other restaurants. And so we went about planning this out. And what we had absolutely no idea of was the conservatism that exists within Chinese kitchens. So the way that it works when you want to take a Chinese restaurant, is there are a bunch of very famous chefs. And the chefs, when you hire the head chef, the whole team moves with the chef, which is really interesting. In a Western restaurant, that does not happen. So you pick the head chef, he says, I'm leaving, and the whole kitchen leaves, which is pretty risky when you want to own a restaurant. And anyway, we went to the headhunters, and they said, these are all of the ones with Michelin stars and famous TV shows, and pretty sure that if you gave them a compelling case, they would come and work for you. So we sat down with them, we started interviewing them, and I can't tell you, the tastings we had were some of the funniest tastings. First one, the guy gave me a knife and fork and a plate, and he assumed I did not know how to use chopsticks. He was like, there's no way. And I was like, no, I'm here to do a Chinese tasting, thank you. And of the 35 chefs that we interviewed, every time we asked them one question: would you be open to some suggestions of change? 34 of them said, absolutely not, how dare you, how rude, how could you possibly tell me I am a famous chef, this is my food, I've been training for 30 years, you should be honored to eat it. We're like, okay, appreciate it. One guy at the very end, and I'll never forget him, we went to his tasting, and he walked in and he put one plain piece of chicken on a plate. Everybody else cooks a banquet. And we said, is that it? And he said, yep. And I said, okay. And so we ate the chicken. And he said, if I cannot cook a perfect plain piece of chicken, I mean, how can, I mean, I don't need to show off. I'm just showing you perfect cooked. It's seasoned well. It's perfect. I picked it from this farm. I want you to show you that this is how I cook. I said, well, that's awesome. I like that. So, open to some suggestions of change? He said, yes, I'm open to suggestions for change. Of course, he's very smart. So he said, I want a 2-year contract where you can't fire me and you have to pay me out no matter what. I said, okay. So we accepted that, and we went through a journey, and this was where the accidental disruption started. So we had a chef trained by El Bulli, Farhan Adria, one of the top chefs in the world from Barcelona. We had Malcolm, who is my business partner, who grew up in Taiwan, and his grandmother's cooking. We had Sean, whose family owned a chain of restaurants across England, all Chinese restaurants, but obviously English, foreign Chinese. We had a chef from Florida. We had a chef trained under the Reid brothers and Gordon Ramsay, and we sat at a round table, and the dish was put in the middle, and everyone said, "Why do you do that? How did you do it, and why did you do it?" And the chef said, "Well, that's how we always do it." We said, "Well, okay, but why?" And so what we did is we got a globalized view of something, and we just said, well, what about this? What about that? What about this? And I'll give you an example. We're quite famous for our char siu dish, which is in many ways actually worker food in Hong Kong. You can buy it on the street anywhere. And we took a dish that traditionally costs maybe a couple of dollars on rice and charged $35, not because we want to rip people off, but because the chef that was trained in Spain suddenly went, hold on, and then didn't say anything, just ran off, went to his kitchen, came back with the pluma muscle, which is a muscle in the back of a pig that the pig doesn't use, so it's got a lot of fat in it. It's a redundant muscle from the Iberico pig. And he gave it to the Chinese chef, and he said, why don't you just try using that? And so he put it in the same system, we tried it, and we were like, oh my God, that's amazing. And, and we did that 100 times. I'll give you another example. So we had the dim sum chef, and we said, how do you cook the dim sum? He said, we stack them up, we put it on. So busy, just pass them out. And we said, okay, so how do you know when it's cooked? He said, no, it's so busy. Just always cooked. And I said, no. How do you know when it's cooked? And he was like, well, I don't. And we're like, well, why don't we cook every single one fresh? Not possible. Too busy, not possible. So we custom designed. So the way it looks is you have a thing like this with 4 holes in, stacked up like that. So we made one with 12 holes. We cook each one fresh. And so in every example, we accidentally changed Chinese cooking. It wasn't intentional, it was accidental disruption. But what we hadn't appreciated is it actually was about respect. When your master teaches you for 20 years, we have a dish which is an egg white and lobster dish that you're not allowed to start cooking until you have 15 years experience on the wok. Imagine working for 15 years to have the chance to cook this dish. You follow this chef, and at the end of his career, he hands you his wok. The first thing you don't do is say, yes, now I can change everything. That just doesn't happen. It's not in the culture. It's not how it works. Of course, in the Western culture, we're like, fuck you to our parents. We don't care about this shit. We're not so good with filial piety, unfortunately. I think we should be better. But this is so true in the kitchen. And so actually what we did was we just enabled innovation that was stifled by a system. That is disruption. And now we're fortunate enough to say that we have restaurants in America and Canada. We'll be opening here soon. A little plug for that one. We are in Singapore and in Seoul and starting to look at Europe. And we're really building the first luxury Chinese restaurant brand out of China that is expanding overseas. And it's an incredibly exciting journey. And it's going hand in hand with the massive expansion of tourism. And I'm really proud on a regular basis that people come and eat that and they actually get to experience really good Chinese cooking. And I think that the problem with diaspora cooking, and you see this in many cultures, is that human beings take the easiest route. So I'll give you the perfect example. In England, we have something called crispy duck, which at one point was Peking duck. And Peking duck takes a lot of work. It's not easy. You need a special oven. You have to overnight it. You have to lacquer it. You have to do all this different work. So you get to England and nobody knows that. And there you are looking at this deep fat fryer and you think, oven thing, investment, hundreds of thousands of dollars, all night work, really, really difficult, deep fat fryer. It doesn't take very long that every time is just straight in the deep fat fryer. And that's what happens. That's what happens to food overseas until enough good turns up that people start to realize what it's like. And so that's been our journey of accidental disruption. But my last few years, I've been on a different journey. Of course, I'm still on that one, but I had the opportunity to really think about what did I want to do next. And in this instance, I decided that actually I wanted to focus on the concept of disruption, and I wanted to identify an industry where I could apply all of these lessons, all these accidental moments, and also think to myself, where is there opportunity for massive change? Where is there something where it's currently doing one thing and I think it's going to completely change to something else? And I landed on it. And it was from my own personal journey. I don't know if you've noticed, how many people have noticed recently that whenever you get into conversation about someone's health, they say, well, I've got this allergy, that allergy. Almost every person's allergic to something these days. And we didn't used to be, so why are we all carrying so much allergies? Whereas food allergies are a disaster for restaurateurs, because can you imagine doing tasting menus? People go, I can't eat wheat, I can't eat dairy, I can't eat this, I don't eat soy, I don't eat this, I don't eat that. It's non-stop, right? And I'm the same. I don't eat gluten and I don't eat dairy. I am a restaurateur that doesn't eat half of his own food. I mean, how ridiculous is that? I'll never forget the turning point for me. I was in an Italian tasting. We were going to do an Italian restaurant, and every dish came out, and I couldn't eat one. And in the end, the chef just came out and said, "Vaffanculo." Like, what are you doing? I mean, like, there's no good reason to be in the restaurant industry. You don't even eat the food, And so I was thinking, what's going on? What's up with our bodies? What's happening to us? And so I had to clear my body. I had to stop eating things to make myself feel better. I was feeling tired, feeling headaches with this. So I started thinking, wellness used to come from food. I had 2 grandmothers. They lived to 99, both of them. I think they just didn't want to be 100. They both lived to 99, and they never took a multivitamin pill. They never took probiotics. They ate butter. Can you believe it? There was all these things. So why could they live to 99 and we can't? I think it's in our food system. So I started looking at wellness, and actually I landed on one of the most amazing findings that's been kind of life-changing for me. But did you know that in the Western world, actually China is different, but in the Western world, there's not one law for a wellness product to have to work. So if you go into GNC or Holland & Barrett or a vitamin shop or any of these places, you look at the whole row from vitamins to probiotics, any wellness product in the world, not one law says they have to work. Isn't that flabbergasting? Isn't that like an amazing thing? So our food system doesn't work, so we go to a shop to try and get something that does work, and none of those work. It's kind of like a double-edged sword. It's kind of ridiculous, actually. So I asked myself the question. I said, well, why do they not work? Why do they not have to work? Well, what is the reason for that? There must be a reason. And so, of course, I landed on fat cat, big companies wanting to rip people off because it doesn't matter. There must be a reason. It must be the man. It must be the reason. Surely that's what it is. But it's actually not. The reason is you can't feel it. And so the biggest problem with the wellness industry is if they make you a better product, and of course when you make something better, it costs more. If you can't feel it, you don't stick to it. I could be sitting here, I could give you the best vitamin C pill on the planet, it costs $1 a day, and I guarantee you within 2 months you'll stop taking it. Because the reality is that we live with all this credence, trust your gut, go with your own feelings, go with this, and when it comes to wellness products, you don't feel it. And so I thought to myself, okay, wow, so there's this industry. This is a $278 billion industry selling products that don't work with a bunch of consumers that won't buy the ones that will work. There's got to be an opportunity somewhere in there. And I meditated on it, I thought about it on it, and I thought, hold on a second, what if you could feel it? And so I started meeting people. I went out to Silicon Valley. I actually was very lucky. I met the guy who created the patents on the back of your iWatch. And his latest business is about biomarkers. And I guarantee you, every person in this room within 3 years will be monitoring your own biomarker health on your wearables. So right now we look at what sleep, steps, calories, these sort of things. But once you get beyond the skin, it all changes. And they're already past the skin. Not Theranos, let's not go there. But there are multiple companies that have solved this, patches and various other things. So imagine now what happens when in the next 2-3 years you put on a watch or a ring or whatever it might be, and suddenly your watch says you're low on magnesium. And so of course you go into your local store and you buy a magnesium pill, and a week later, you look at your watch, nothing's changed. And then a week later, you look at your watch again, and nothing's changed. Now, suddenly, you're going to feel pretty aggrieved. You're going to be pretty annoyed. And so you're going to be annoyed with the shop that you bought it in. Probably you've been buying that brand or that product for quite a long time, so you're going to be pretty annoyed with that brand. And so you're going to demand something that does work. So I decided to look into, well, what does work? And I found out that there's a whole roadmap available to you, because in the pharmaceutical industry, they have to work. They have to go through stage 4 clinical trials, right? So what does the pharmaceutical industry use that the nutraceutical industry doesn't use? And it turns out that hard-to-deliver compounds are often used by nanotechnology. And that's why my random introduction of Chinese cooking to nanotechnology is kind of been my journey of disruption. And so I said, well, okay, so if nanotechnology is what's used, and that's used a lot for chemotherapy, drug delivery, and multiple other, and the way it works is quite interesting. So they created a thing called a liposome. There's multiple versions of this, but created a liposome. It has an aqueous core, and inside the aqueous core, they can put other things. Ideally, things that don't naturally absorb, or things you don't want to touch, other things. So, for example, of chemo, they'll put the drug inside that core. Now, this is, to give you a sense of size, the tip of your hair is 80,000 nanometers, and they're working at about 100 nanometers. So we're talking very, very, very small. And you can hide whatever you want inside that, and then when your body takes it, your body, if you were to take it in your mouth, your body sees and it says, oh, that's a fat cell. Doesn't know what's inside. It's like a little Trojan horse. And it goes straight in, straight through your femoral wall, straight into your liver, through your first pass metabolism, and into your bloodstream. And so it absorbs way better. So for the last 2 years, I spent 2 years on a crash course in nanotechnology. And I'm proud to say, and I brought it here because I didn't have a presentation, but I thought I ought to have at least something, this is our first product, right here. And this product right here is the first truly nanotechnology liposomal CBD product in the world. And that CBD, for those that haven't heard of it, although it's buzzing like crazy, is the health benefits out of the hemp or the marijuana plant. And that has some incredible natural solutions, but is the perfect example of everything that's wrong with the industry. CBD is more hydrophobic than marble. It's more hydrophobic than B vitamins. You have an industry booming that basically doesn't work, that's selling lies, because people don't care, people can't feel it, doesn't matter. And then we said, well, what if we don't do that? And what is incredible is, coming back to this concept of wearables, every day people send me their Fitbit, their sleep graphs, showing me that after they started taking this product, on average, 2 hours more sleep and 30 minutes more deep REM from taking a product that actually works. And so we're passionately now looking at different other wellness products that we would like to create, always in line with the biomarker that you can read. It might be inflammation, it might be various other things. But that's our vision. I hope I'm not completely off with it, but I have a feeling that that is going to happen. And so that's been our journey. So I just sort of bring it all back to disruption. I think that you can just come with your standards, come with a global view, come with the way you want to do it, like we did with Mott 32. It wasn't intentional, it wasn't a plan, it just happened. Or you can actually sit down with a white piece of paper and analyze and think, where is technology? Where is something going to really change something? Where is something being done wrong that could be done better? That's been my example. My small help to that, or hope to that, is sitting in nanotechnology and wellness products. There is so much opportunity for this in this part of the world. It won't be CBD, because this legality is only just opening up in Thailand when it comes to medical marijuana, but there is one of the fastest growing nutraceutical trends is in Asia. A lot of it is in children. People will do anything to get the healthiest products to their children. I'll tell you a really interesting anecdote. The lowest cancer rates in the world are in Japan. Everyone thinks that, anyone that's not been to Japan, like people in England or something, think it's because everyone is eating sushi and doing this, but it's not true. I mean, actually, you can still smoke in restaurants in Japan. Most people are eating fried food, drinking whiskey. It's not the healthiest environment. So why is that? And actually, it's not widely spoken about, but one of the main reasons I hear from scientists is iodine in your body. You need iodine to do something called apoptosis, which is what kills dead cells, which, if they mutate, becomes cancer cells. In Western diet, we've removed all iodine. We don't even leave it in our salt anymore, and of course we have high traces. In Japan, has the highest iodine of all diets, lowest cancer. Kind of interesting the way food and wellness are deeply intertwined. So I thank you very much for listening to me today, and appreciate it.